Can you and should you trust Mozilla Firefox? TLDR, for people who don't want to watch the whole video, who just saw the title, it's the wrong question. Don't care about any of this, just install librewolf. Install this and just forget that this entire thing happened. librewolf is an open source fork of Firefox that removes all of the telemetry, Pocket, the sponsored ad crap. So instead of having to go through your settings and manually harden Firefox and opt out of all this crap and make sure it's not running, with librewolf, it's just like that by default. You can import your bookmarks very easily into it. All of your settings are going to look identical to the way they did before. The web browser looks the way it did before. It loads the way it did before, because for the most part, it's the same browser. They just do some modifications for privacy and security to get rid of that stuff. So if you're not savvy and you don't want to read through all this drama and figure out what's going on, install this and be happy, and you'll never have to worry about this again. So what do I think of what happened? What did happen? And is this a big deal? In my opinion, this is something of a nothing burger. Before you all kill me, Mozilla is absolutely horrific at communication, and they should be raked over the coals for how they made their announcement. They put into their terms of use, and I quote, "You give Mozilla all rights necessary to operate Firefox, including processing data as we describe in the Firefox privacy notice, as well as acting on your behalf to help you navigate the internet. When you upload or input information through Firefox, you hereby grant us a non-exclusive, royalty-free, worldwide license to use that information to help you navigate, experience, and interact with online content as you indicate with your use of Firefox." So this is obviously one of the stupidest possible things that you could ever write. And it is incredibly overly broad. And it's one of these areas where, in trying to hedge their bets to be in compliance with the California Consumer Privacy Act, which I've read a lot of today, they wound up putting the stupidest thing on there possible and shooting themselves in the foot reputationally. They followed up on this by updating the page to say, and I quote, this is the standard thing that drives me insane, "We've seen a little confusion about the language regarding licenses, so we want to clear that up." Any of you watch Game of Thrones? Remember that episode where Tywin Lannister is looking at the Kid King Joffrey, and he's like, "The king is tired," and Joffrey goes, "I'm not tired. I'm not confused." I read what you posted, and it was horrible. They also removed "We don't sell your data" promise from their FAQ. So yeah, this is from wiki.rossmangroup.com. I'm loading it here because archive.org is literally crashed. The way that you know, by the way, that you have screwed up from a PR standpoint is when so many people are going to archive.org to figure out what your website used to look like before you changed it, that you've crashed archive.org. I can load other sites on archive.org, but I can't load mozilla.org on archive.org. You crashed archive.org, Mozilla communication team. Like, good on you. Now back to this. Here's what it used to say. Is Firefox free? Yep, the Firefox browser is free. Super free, actually. No hidden costs or anything. You don't pay to use it. Is Firefox safe? Not only is it safe, but it helps keep your private information safe. The Firefox browser also blocks known third-party trackers, social media trackers, crypto miners, and fingerprinters from collecting your data. Wait a second. Oh my God, did whoever did this put the before on the right and the after on the left? Are you insane? Sir, whoever contributed to the wiki, and God bless you for contributing to the wiki, but did you seriously put the after on the left and the before on the right? Bruh. Are you fucking animal? Okay, back to this. Here's the way it used to look. Yep, the Firefox browser is free, super free actually, no hidden costs, you don't pay anything to use it, and we don't sell your personal data. Does Firefox sell your personal data? Nope, never have, never will. And we protect you from many of the advertisers who do. Firefox products are designed to protect your privacy. That's a promise. And then on the new page, that's on the left, they took away the references to not selling personal data. That's really bad PR if you don't explain it very, very well. And they did a very, very poor job of doing that. Also, the changes went up before users were notified. This went up on February 25th as a change. Somebody asked about this on the forum on the 26th, and this article that they created was on the 26th. Further, it says that by using Firefox that you are accepting these terms of use. So many of you, similar to with LG refrigerators, when you're signing for something without seeing the terms because they threw away the box, you were technically agreeing to a terms of use that you had never seen, that you were never informed of because, well, 2025. And this is also horrible timing because Google is moving over to Manifest v3. They are really crippling ad blockers in Chrome. So this would be a great time if Mozilla had their head screwed on properly to think, oh, wow, let's do a giant PR blitz. Brave Browser, back when AdBlock was not working properly or certain ad blockers were being broken by YouTube, decided to do an ad campaign. They actually paid YouTube to do ads, and it said, block this ad, Brave Browser. Whether or not you like or hate Brendan Eich or Brave, that's the way you do it. You go to a website that's filled with ads, and you pay to put an ad on the screen that says, block this ad. Here's my website. Where the browser that's advertised on the website is an open source browser that comes with the ad blocker built in that works on that website when everybody else's don't. Firefox had such an opportunity here to kick Chrome in the balls, and instead they managed to grab defeat from the jaws of victory and somehow manage to fuck up their reputation worse than Chrome has in the eyes of many people when Chrome is the one that removed AdBlock and Firefox is the one that didn't. It's so incredibly painful. Seeing what open source projects do to themselves in so many instances, and I've documented some of them on this channel, it's just gun, foot, constantly, and sometimes other organs as well. So after all of this, Mozilla updated their terms of use. Again, we've seen a little confusion about the language regarding licenses. I am not confused. So you want to clear that up. We need a license to allow us to make some of the basic functionality of Firefox possible. Without it, we couldn't use information typed into Firefox. For example, it does not give us ownership of your data or the right to use it for anything other than what is described in the privacy notice. You give Mozilla the rights necessary to operate Firefox. This includes processing your data as we describe in the Firefox privacy notice. It also includes a non-exclusive royalty-free worldwide license for the purpose of doing as you request with the content you input into Firefox. This does not give Mozilla any ownership in that content. Why couldn't you write that in the beginning? Let's talk about the California Consumer Privacy Act because it's necessary to get into that to understand what would cause a company like Mozilla to get rid of "we will never sell your data" on their website. For you and I, when we think of selling personal data within the confines of a web browser, you would think it's something like Louis Rossmann went to Pornhub.com with a VPN because he lives in Texas and tried to search for some deepfake AI-generated Tori Amos lookalike porn or whatever sick shit that you may be into, and that they have the ability to sell that information so that somebody else pays 50 cents and realizes that I was looking for Tori Amos deepfake porn. That's concerning. However, when you read the California Consumer Privacy Act, you'll realize that what you think selling data means and what others think selling data means are very different things. When you originally read Mozilla's article, it really does sound like some horribly gaslighting thing over here where they're talking about selling data. It says Mozilla doesn't sell data about you in the way most people think about selling data. That sounds like a cop-out. It sounds like they're hiding something and they're gaslighting you. And very often you'd be right to think that because that's what companies do nowadays. Let's read what it is the California Consumer Privacy Act defines as selling data. Sell, selling, sale, sold means selling, renting, releasing, disclosing, disseminating, making available, transferring, or otherwise communicating orally, in writing, or by electronic or other means, a consumer's personal information by the business to another business or a third party for monetary or other valuable consideration. So when you think about what it says over there, making available or transferring information from you to another business, not even in exchange for money, but for valuable consideration. Some of their existing business practices could have potentially legally qualified as selling data. For instance, their search engine partnership with Google and so on and so forth. Mozilla's largest revenue source comes from deals with search engines like Google, which pay Mozilla to be Firefox's default search provider. These deals involve sending search query data to search partners. Under the CCPA, if Mozilla transmitted search data in exchange for financial compensation, this could be classified as sale of data. This is a practice that Mozilla has already been openly taking part in. So for a very, very long period of time, Mozilla has been getting paid by Google to be the default search engine in Firefox. And when they're transmitting your search query to Google and it has that little referrer that says Firefox, even if this data is anonymized, the way that the California Consumer Protection Act is phrased and the way that this is written, they could technically have done something wrong here. Even if they did not sell that piece of data to them, if they're getting paid in another way, or they're receiving other valuable consideration. They don't even have to be getting paid for the data. It could just be considered maybe this improves our business relationship. So usually in a lot of these laws, there'll be a definition section, and over here, valuable consideration. Like, what is that? Is valuable consideration money has changed hands? Is valuable consideration you've let me fuck your wife? Like, really, what does that mean? How Mozilla sponsored ads work. Mozilla monetizes Firefox through advertising programs. Pocket sponsored stories. Mozilla owns Pocket, which provides content recommendations. One day I turned on Firefox after installing it new, and I started to see these news stories show up on my screen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't ask for this. Where the fuck did this come from? Go away. And that's one of the ways that they make money. Mozilla shares aggregated data with ad platforms such as AdZerk so advertisers can track engagement. Sponsored shortcuts. Mozilla displays paid website shortcuts on the new tab page. Mozilla gets paid per click, user click, and routes click data through a Mozilla-owned proxy service. Sponsored suggestions and search. Mozilla processes search queries and shares de-identified interaction data with partners, including search engines and networks. Mozilla says all data shared with advertisers is anonymized, aggregated, and de-identified before being disclosed. And when you take a look at their privacy policy, Mozilla collects technical and interaction data, such as the position, size, views, and clicks on new tab, content, or ads, to understand how people are interacting with our content and to personalize future content, including sponsored content. This data may be shared with our advertising partners on a de-identified or aggregated basis. Now, if we take a look on archive.org, you'll see that something similar to this was posted a long time ago. This is not new. This is from July 16, 2024, and the same page. We may recommend content to you based on your browsing history, language, and country location. The process of deciding which stories you should see based on your browsing history happens locally in your copy of Firefox, and Mozilla does not receive a copy of your browsing history. Mozilla does receive aggregated data about the recommendations you see and click. We also share aggregated data about the sponsored content you see and click with our third-party ad platform, Kevel, so advertisers can see how many people click on their articles. This aggregated data does not identify you personally. When you read through this page, even if you archive.org it, this is not something new. How this relates to Mozilla's privacy policy. Mozilla's privacy policy states that user data is only shared in an aggregated or de-identified form. The Firefox privacy notice also confirms. Mozilla processes interaction data such as ad clicks and shares de-identified information with partners. Partners cannot associate these interactions with an individual user. In some instances, when ads are enabled on a new tab, additional browsing data may also be processed locally on your device to measure the effectiveness of these ads. Such data will only be shared with Mozilla and/or our advertising partners via our privacy-preserving technologies on an aggregated and/or de-identified basis. There we go. Archive.org. Once I got it to work. This is from July of 2024. We may recommend content to you based on your browsing history, language, and country location. The process of deciding which stories you should see based on your browsing history happens locally in your copy of Firefox, and Mozilla doesn't receive a copy of your browsing history. Mozilla does receive aggregated data about the recommendations you see and click. We also share aggregated data about the sponsored content you see and click with our third-party ad platform, Kevel, so advertisers can see how many people click on their articles. This aggregated data does not identify you personally. I'm not a big fan of any of this, which is why I would prefer to use something like librewolf than Firefox, because when I get home from a busy day at work, my idea of fun is just not combing through my browser preferences to figure out where any of these items are hidden and ensure that I'm opted out of them rather than opt in. That's not what I find fun. The point I'm trying to get across here is that it's not like they just started putting sponsored search results or recommended personalized news or anything like that in Firefox yesterday. This has been going on for a very, very long period of time. And the stuff that's been in their terms for this very long period of time could potentially get them fucked in the ass by the CCPA based on how somebody may choose to interpret this. So Mozilla's ad system does not clearly violate the CCPA, but it exists in a gray area because of the valuable consideration clause. Mozilla earns money from clicks on sponsored shortcuts, which may be considered a sale under the CCPA if user data has value. Lack of a clear do not sell option. The CCPA requires an explicit do not sell my data button, but Mozilla bundles opt-out settings under technical and interaction data. When Mozilla's support page says you can opt out of having your data processed for personalization or advertising purposes by turning off technical and interaction data on desktop and mobile at any given time. Mozilla did not have a do not sell my data option inside the browser because they did not consider this a sale of data. What they would consider a sale of data is, I know this person's name is Louis Rossman, and if anybody wants to figure out what type of porn he watches, give us $1. Potential re-identification of data. CCPA states that anonymized data can still be personal information if it can be linked to a user. While Mozilla tells users that advertisers cannot directly identify users, regulators may argue that user interactions still hold monetary value, which could require Mozilla to revise its privacy policy for full compliance. So even if they can't figure out who I am because it's been anonymized, that doesn't matter because we're dealing with this term, other valuable consideration. Mozilla's sudden change to its terms of use policy can be viewed as hedges to Mozilla's legal risks and exposure under the CCPA. Legal definitions of selling my data abroad, as noted above, the CCPA's definition encompasses many data sharing practices that may not align with common understanding of selling data. Even if Mozilla was not directly selling user data, its search partnerships, telemetry data sharing, and sponsored content could have been interpreted as data sales if Mozilla received any financial benefit from them, all of which were actions that Mozilla had already been transparent and upfront about. Mozilla's search engine deals could also be considered data sales. As mentioned earlier, these partnerships could legally qualify as data sales under the CCPA definition, despite being an existing part of Mozilla's business model that consumers are already aware of. Sponsored content in Firefox's new tab page involves data exchange. Mozilla displays sponsored content and ads on the Firefox new tab page, which may involve user interaction data being shared with advertisers. Even if the data is anonymized, the CCPA considers certain types of aggregated data as personal information if it can be linked back to users. While the new terms of use does not confirm that Mozilla intends to sell user data and puts its current practices in line with the CCPA, it no longer explicitly prohibits it, leaving open the option for future monetization, which, again, is one of the reasons that if any of this perturbs you, use librewolf. Users were not notified before the terms of use changes took effect. Mozilla announced the terms on February 26th, but they had already taken effect by February 25th. Very, very bad. Lack of clarity on why Mozilla needs a license to user input. Users question why Mozilla needed licensing rights over user input when browsers have worked for over 25 years without these terms. Concerns likely based on misinterpretation. Mozilla will log and track all user browsing data. Some users assume the terms of use granted Mozilla unlimited access to browsing history. However, Mozilla's privacy policy still states that it does not store user browser history or personal data beyond necessary telemetry. I think that a good portion of the outrage is a nothing burger. I would say the 50% outrage that is correct is how fucking stupid they are at communicating all of this. It is unacceptable that an organization that brings in tens of millions of dollars, that has a chief executive that makes over $6 million, that has people in the nonprofit making salaries of over $600,000 a year, does not have a PR team that has half a brain cell to rub together and say how to write this. That's unacceptable. But the idea that Mozilla is going out there and selling your data, their own privacy policy, as it is written, is not going to allow them to do that. And even if you look at their privacy policy and you don't believe any of it because they're such idiots in how they communicated this, which I don't blame you for, you can go over and use librewolf and you'll be fine. In my opinion, money for nothing destroyed Mozilla. Money is why this happened. And it's not in the way that you may think. It's not this thing where Mozilla is greedy, so they want to take all your data and sell it to make more money. That's not what it's about. It's something much simpler than that. It's the way money atrophies you. And in some cases, whether it's individuals or companies, having a lot of money could be one of the worst things that ever happens to you. If you're an astronaut and you used to be a power lifter, going to space could be one of the worst things that happens to you. Even if you have your resistance bands and everything else, your bone density is going to go down. You're going to lose a lot of muscle when you come back to Earth because you didn't have the force of gravity and you weren't working against gravity all the time. And the same thing happens when people or organizations get paid a lot of money, regardless of whether they do work. People are going to hang around with you even if you say messed up shit. You could tell jokes that are not funny, and people are going to laugh at them. If you have products or services that suck or you don't take what you're doing fully seriously, you have the ability to screw up and not self-improve at all if you have a lot of money, because you're going to make money anyway. You don't have that driving force behind you of, if I don't do the right thing, if I don't shape up, I'm going to be poor. And the same thing happens to a company that happens to a human being, is that your muscles for these things become atrophied. Your public relations muscles become atrophied. Your ability to write a blog post or just have your hand on the pulse of what's going on with your users gets atrophied. So take a look at how Mozilla makes their money. Their money is made through royalties. Yeah, let's say they just deleted subscription and advertising revenue. Just let's say they deleted this altogether. Nobody gives a shit. People like you or I donating $1 or $5 to Mozilla because we like their mission is not how they make their money. They're getting their money by allowing Google to be the default search engine in their browser in exchange for a bag of cash. Google's not doing this because they think that they're going to make so much more money if Firefox refers users to them. Google, sadly, I hate admitting this, every other search engine I use, they just suck. they suck. And frankly, too few users use Firefox for that to probably be worth it to them. Google is doing this to keep Firefox alive. It's insurance. They make $70 billion a year in net profit. Google wants to protect that by not being seen as a monopoly in either the EU or the United States. So taking 0.2 or 0.3% of Google's net profit and using that to keep Mozilla alive is a great thing to do, because they could say, look, see, that browser over there, look, they use a totally different engine, and they're a different company altogether, and their entire business model is not selling data in privacy, and they don't even like us, and they're still around. So see, we're not a monopoly. That's important to Google. They don't want their $70 billion net profit business getting fucked with. So they're going to keep giving to Firefox, regardless of what Firefox does. Mozilla doesn't have to worry about this at all. Now, let's say that the gravy train ended. Let's say that Google decided tomorrow, you know what? Fuck it. The United States has not had consumer protection for what, the last 10 years now? Why do we even care about this? The gravy train would still continue, because Mozilla has made so much money at this point that they could simply keep going just based on the investment income on their current assets. When you take a look at their Form 990, it says over here for 2022, investment income was $20 million. For 2023, investment income was $37 million. $37 million off of investments. And when you take a look at their total revenue for 2023 was $64 million. So of the $64 million they made in revenue, $37 million was simply by being a glorified mutual fund. They've made enough money that simply just the dividends and interest on their existing money will provide them with quite a bit. And the people that have been working there are used to this by now. If we scroll down on this a little bit, you'll get to see what the executive compensation at Mozilla is. They do not have a culture at that company, in my opinion, of having to perform well in order to get paid. Mitchell Baker is the chair. She used to make $2.4 million a year. Now she's making $6.2 million a year. The executive director of this nonprofit makes $661,000 a year. Do you know what Repair Preservation Group pays me? Nothing! Nothing! Because it's a fucking nonprofit. And even if it was going to pay me something for my performance, for me to really be motivated to do a good job, lobby more and get bills passed, fine, I'll pay myself like $80 to $120K, not fucking $661,000. If you're running a for-profit business, by all means, make as much money as you want. A nonprofit director getting $661. What did Mitchell Baker do to get $6.2 million fucking dollars? Like, what code have you written that's revolutionized Firefox? What have you done to get the market share to go back to where it was even in 2013? Their pay continues to go up regardless of horrible, horrible performance. And not just that, forget about the performance aspect of it. Their pay as a percentage of revenue is more than Google or Apple's. When you take a look at how Google pays their executives, Sundar Pichai made $8 million in 2023 on revenue of $307 billion. That's 0.0029% of their revenue. Mitchell Baker's salary was almost 1% of revenue. Mark Sermon's salary at a nonprofit was over 1% of revenue. Man, if you work at Google or Apple, the chief executive there, they may be paid better, but as a percentage of revenue, it's much lower. Mozilla does not have a culture of you need to win to get paid. They're going to get paid if they win. They're going to get paid if they lose. They're going to get paid if they give the middle finger to every one of their users. So why should they care? I don't think that Mozilla is doing this because they want to make money off of your data. This has nothing to do with monetizing your data. It has everything to do with being completely atrophied and out of touch as a company because they can make money regardless of being good at what they do. They could twiddle their balls all day and they're going to make $37 million on investments alone, which is more than enough to pay the chair and the executive director and all these other people their insanely bloated salaries. Is that a company that's going to want to compete? Is that a company that's going to be hungry to win? Of course not. There's not going to be that winning energy that exists elsewhere. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the stuff Brave browser's done over the years, but you know what they have that Mozilla doesn't? A winning attitude. They want to win. When YouTube fucked up ad blockers universally, they figured out how to make their ad blocker work, and they went on YouTube and said, block all ads, use our browser. They did not say, hey, it looks like we have an ad blocker that works when all the other ones don't work. Let's destroy our reputation by changing our terms of use in the worst possible tone-deaf way. You know why that Brave and Brendan Eich have that mentality when Mozilla doesn't? Because Brave is not getting $400 to $500 million a year to do nothing. That atrophies you. You're not going to be the same company when you make money for doing nothing. The worst thing that could happen to you as a human being is getting money to do nothing. I've seen it happen to companies and people. It atrophies you mentally, emotionally, physically, all the way around. Some people can deal with it. I probably wouldn't be able to deal with it. I don't think I'm mature enough. I don't think I have it in me. I don't think I have the fortitude for it. I think if I got paid a fuck ton of money for doing nothing, I would become a complete prick. It's not even because I'd want to be a prick. It's just there would be no pressure. It's kind of like taking off your mask in space. It's just like your head would explode. It's like you need pressure. You need something to ground you. You need gravity. You need an atmosphere. Yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Consumer Action Task Force Wiki. Every day that a company does some fucked up shit, the wiki gets 1 page taller. 1 page taller. With the help of all of you. I appreciate all of it. I really do. Even the person that did this thing. Even you. With your fucking before on the right and your after on the left. Even you. Even you. You're a good person because you beat me to making the article. And that matters. Somebody had to do the article. Who did that? Actually, it was Costas. Costas, you? No way. He's been doing way more work on this shit than I have. He's done so much more work than I have. I can't give you shit. Look at top contributors. Let's go all time. Where's Costas and where am I? All time. Oh, yeah, he got his ranking back. Waldo was about to fuck him up for a while. Yeah, I'm at number 7. I'm down here. He's up there. Who the fuck am I to be criticizing his damn images? Maybe he's in Australia. The toilet water doesn't go the right way there. Why would the before and after? I gotta ask him. Anyway, see you in the next one. Bye now.